Hello there and welcome to part 2 of the Sarpedon campaign Abridged in Total War Troy. In the first part we got off to a very smooth start. We captured all of Rhodes and all of the territory to the right of where we started, which nestles us nicely up against the edge of the map. Now I've geared up for an adventure to the south because I'm going to do a mission that involves capturing a bunch of islands. Our first target is to the south of Rhodes down here. I've just arrived. Annoyingly, the faction controlling the island has an army here. I've already declared war on them before I arrived, which I think was a mistake because they probably moved this force here to defend against me declaring war on them. Maybe not, I don't know if the AI actually works like that. But anyway, we arrive and besiege the place, and because they have all of these units we can't easily capture it. It's also an island with giants available for recruitment, and that means they've got giants in their garrison and they've recruited one into their army. Overall, looks like making a siege attack on these walls could be difficult. So I just sat there making rams for a bit, and we come back now like 3 or 4 turns later. Half of the enemy garrison is dead, and this is a situation where I could just wait another turn. They'd be basically dead next turn and we could just auto-resolve them for free and leave. But I wanted some action, so I thought, you know what, I'll just make the siege assault on these walls. We have an advantage, enough of an advantage to perhaps offset the disadvantage of having to fight beneath enemy towers and deal with walls, that sort of thing. Strategically, this is the wrong decision because taking extra losses by doing a siege assault manually means you have to replenish more afterwards. It's faster to wait for the enemy to die and then just auto-resolve them for free. I think, anyway. You can see for the battle, I really had no plan whatsoever. What I think was going on was I'd played the campaign for quite a long time so far and nothing in particular had happened. So I wanted to just go all out and see what would happen if we just attack all the gates rather than doing the usual strategy where you only attack 1 or 2 gates and the rest of the attacks are just fake outs to distract the enemy. So here we are trying to batter our way in. They've got their giants behind the gate. They take a nice slap in the face from the gate as it's burst open. Luckily they're half dead already, so we can just kind of overwhelm them, and they're not that giant. It's not like in Total War Warhammer or anything like that. There was one attack here on the other side of town that I actually did give up on because I thought the casualties would be too large. But for the most part I just took extreme casualties, opened the gates, being shot by slingers and the towers, and then we have to fight our way through some giants, as you can see here, to get into this other gate as well. There is a minor issue fighting giants in that your troops do struggle to fight against small units. They can't all attack at once or anything like that, so they just kind of stand there and gradually die. But slowly we should win because we do have axes which are good against their armoured giants in theory. Here's Sarpedon, need some more micro here to get some use out of him. Micro was the main issue doing this siege because the game's battles are extremely fast paced, so really you can't give orders fast enough. Here was an example of bad micro. Some of my chariots have wandered into the enemy's giant spearmen. I think I was trying to get them to run through, but I need to constantly click over and over again to get them to actually go past them. And those giant spears are probably a great counter to chariots. Looks like I've managed to get some ladders up over there, so the place where I abandoned the ram is still going to have a bit of fighting. Here's what I was actually going for, getting the chariots inside. Then they can just maraud about and take out slingers and go for the capture point as well. Still, looks like we're going to suffer the casualties fighting over the walls anyway, even with these schemes going on. Here I've got my harpies, the overpowered javs, launching their javs towards some enemy archers down there and taking them out from atop the wall. And the 1-axe unit attacking this western gate appears to have been successful because everything here started running away, so they somehow didn't die despite the enemy's strength. Here are some chariots taking the capture point, but this is a bit pointless because the moment the enemy come back to it, I just get out of there. I didn't want those chariots who are nearly dead to become fully dead so that we don't actually lose the unit. And at this stage in the battle we've kind of won just by sheer attrition. We've killed most stuff and we're swarming the middle of the town. Some enemy giants here are managing to jank their way out of being encircled after being routed, which is another annoying occurrence of that. Even looks like they're still attacking our guys somehow. Anyway, the battle comes down to pretty much just the enemy commander still being alive, and Sarpedon goes in for a duel. Here comes the audience to watch. Unfortunately for this audience, it's a dangerous duel because javelins start raining on it, killing a bunch of my own men. That's from those harpies again. You can see they have serious throwing arms. They're pretty much just ballistas. The range of javelins in this game is greater than in other Total Wars, and harpies take that even further still. They're also quite good in melee as well, which is why they're generally overpowered. I remember in the preview, all of the other content creators in Discord were saying that they're overpowered, and they still seem to be overpowered as far as I can tell. So that's handy for us, although we killed a bunch of our own men. Eventually this battle does come to an end. We lost one full unit of our good axemen. That's inconvenient because we can't get them back anytime soon. Everything else is technically still alive, but it's going to take a whole bunch of replenishment to get our army back into working order, especially among those chariots who took serious losses. So that's the downside of doing that fight manually. We're going to have to wait for like 2 or 3 turns before we can be at full strength again. But if we waited an extra turn and then auto-resolved, we probably would only spend 2 turns in total before we're leaving, if that makes any sense. So that's that. We wait around and start replenishing. Here's our next target, this island to the northwest, so that's where we'll be going next. I've also got an envoy agent heading down to Crete. That's one of my epic missions, to have an envoy down there. The epic missions are the ones that I think you need to do to complete the game, so that's happening. It took so long to replenish here at this island that I had long enough to build up the giant recruitment thing and make a giant of my own, a giant unit I should say, and they're going to be the replacement for the lost axes, so that's a little bit interesting. Here's the envoy on Crete. We complete the mission and get a bunch of rewards. With that epic mission done, we get another one. This one's just have a certain amount of money. We probably would have this amount already if I hadn't spent all my money getting that celestial iron in the previous part, which may or may not have actually done anything. So that'll happen in the background. We'll wait and we'll probably get that money soon. Then we sail off to attack this next island. Annoyingly, even without declaring war on these guys, they do have the island very heavily defended. It would be quite costly to go in and make that attack, and we might even lose. So I immediately started looking to the northwest further still, because the faction controlling this island also controls this next island over here. So I thought maybe we can get them to go and defend their other place instead by going over there ourselves. While I don't intend to capture this other island, just being there might make them go back, and to help that along I'm going to go over there and then also declare war on them. So this should up the threat levels, and what I hoped was the AI would kind of detect me being near their settlement and then go back to defend it. But in the next turn my arriving envoy reveals that they haven't actually moved at all. So we're going to call their bluff by actually attacking this settlement after all. There's basically nothing here, so we're guaranteed a victory at auto-resolve. I've also now unlocked Night Attack. I'm not sure if Night Attack gives you an advantage in auto-resolves against one enemy army. In some games it does make field battles easier by giving the enemy a morale debuff, but sometimes it also doesn't, so I don't know. It's meant to be used for stopping reinforcements from showing up, if you don't know. Anyway, we do win that battle. Now I didn't really want to occupy this territory because I didn't want to provoke any kind of conflict with the province that it's in. It's in a province with a bunch of the other islands nearby, and I thought if I moved in we might end up getting into more drama with the locals. So I just went for a sack instead. We'll make some money off this, and then just kind of still hope that they decide to come back to defend this place after I've now proven that I can take it at least. So we stand there and await the enemy's next move. What they actually do is perhaps try to use my strategy against me. They sail off to the southeast. So they are going to go and attack me, but this kind of suits me because we can obviously go and take our target now. We also get this non-aggression pact with the locals, so I probably could have actually occupied that place I just attacked and been fine. So I think that was a bit of a mistake really. Anyway, we move on. I'm not going to go and reoccupy it even though I could now, because I'm more interested in grabbing the place we need for our mission before the enemy come back. It'll take us 2 turns to get there, and during that time the enemy will be able to reach our territory. So I'm going to recruit a new army down at that island we captured earlier. Since this was the direction they were going, I was pretty sure this is the territory they're going for, plus it's in the same province as where they just came from, so that would make sense. By the time we arrive at their island, they've recruited 1 guy to defend, but that's not going to be enough. We can move on in and take this place. With this place captured, our mission now requires us to go back to the mainland actually. We need to take the 3 regions to the west of our starting area to become the Annex of Rhodes or whatever it was. The only issue is that their army's still at large, and in fact at this point it's sitting right outside the settlement I was just bolstering the defences of. But we don't actually need to worry about any of that because it turns out they were willing to get a peace treaty after I took their settlement. We can even get some resources out of it. So that's handy. Now we don't have to bother worrying about their counterattack, which would come in the next turn. This deal annihilates my diplomatic reputation for reasons I don't completely understand. But it's okay because your reputation comes back after a while. There's their army sitting just outside the docks of my place, going to disband my defensive force since we can't really afford to have it. But this proves to be a bad move, as we'll see in a second. We move on, and a mistake that I made earlier is revealed. When I took that island down there originally, I thought the faction controlling it had only that island, and I didn't check to see whether their faction was destroyed after I captured it. And the truth is, they don't control only that island, they weren't destroyed, and now they're back. I completely did not expect this. I didn't even check in the diplomacy menu and ever see that I'm still at war with that faction. I was oblivious. So here they are with a stack suddenly besieging us. These guys are actually based out of the east end of Crete. We can get that revealed to us by opening the diplomacy menu. I suspected as much from the direction they came from. But there, when we open diplomacy, the camera scrolls to Crete for a moment, which suggests their capital is down there. They're not interested in peace, so we're going to have to do something about this. As it happens, their siege lasts long enough for Sarpedon to actually sail over here. What I thought I could do is get into the settlement because it has docks, and it mentions in one of the tooltips that docks allow you to move out of sieges. But it turns out you can't move into a siege, so we can't land and defend the settlement, unfortunately. That means that when the enemy attack this turn, we're still in the sea, and you can't do seaborne reinforcements for land battles in this game, meaning that while we do have a lot of stuff here, unfortunately the enemy are able to get this very favourable attack on us. They've got all sorts of trash, probably enough to overwhelm us, but I figured I might as well fight this one as a last stand because these balance bars don't really take into account the amount of damage that towers will do to the enemy. So we can use this battle to soften them up, and then our main force can just step in the next turn and try to finish off the enemy. Handily, their siege attack strategy is just as brazen as mine earlier. They're just going to go for it and take the hits from my slingers and towers. Although there is one gate on this map that doesn't have any towers, and one of their groups is attacking that one. So that is going to lessen the effect of our last stand. But yes, for now we'll just pick up some free damage. Eventually the enemy do break open the gates, but behind this set of gates we've got our garrison giant unit who should be able to combat their trash okay. But the main point of this defensive position is to hold the enemy beneath the slingers. You can see the little lines coming down from above, some of them being the enemy slingers by the looks of things, but yes, we're shooting straight into the top of that blob and grabbing a whole bunch of kills as a result. Good stuff. Going to have those trash go and add themselves to that defense in order to keep it going. Looks like at this other gate they've managed to get around me while I wasn't paying attention, so that's good. Gonna have to chase them off. But at least we do have some good fights here. Our slingers are cutting down enemy trash and our axemen are doing the same. In this case, it's another of these annoying rout situations where we managed to rout their trash spears up against this wall, but our guys are very unwilling to attack them now and start just spreading out and walking off in general. So that's inconvenient, but I think they're so trapped we're going to at least do some damage to them. Looks like our commander has held the gate with no towers against the enemy attack. Now he's going to rush out to chase some slingers for a while. Our giants unfortunately lost their fight with the enemy trash, possibly because of friendly fire or the enemy slingstones coming down, but I had some more trash to hold them in place and grab a tiny bit more damage. This gate over here is a really good situation actually, because the enemy are wasting ammunition shooting at some of my guys in cover, and my towers are killing all of their slingers, so we got tons of kills there. This gate here has been secured, but the enemy slingers who came in through another gate are now killing the last of my troops. My commander is still chasing enemy slingers off, turns out they were too fast to catch, but I accidentally discovered a kind of trick here. Once I decided to not chase them for about 1 second, they turned around and then allowed me to actually be in amongst them and grab a few kills there. They ran off again, and if I really wanted to I could probably micro this and constantly get them to come back towards my commander, but I didn't really want to do that because I've got other things to micro, like this right here. The enemy trash are approaching the capture point. I have some axemen here who are going to do a charge. I'm pretty sure these two-handed units tend to have decent charge bonuses, so we've probably grabbed some kills there. and now we just sort of hold on. We don't really have the numbers to cover all the bases, but I could do this big play. There are 4 units of trash stuck together fighting my axes, and my heavy axes come in from behind for the surround. What I hoped was we'd see the entire blob rout and get out of there. We do see a bit of routing. Unfortunately, it's not enough. The other units then, I thought, well, maybe we'll just kill them because our unit's like a tier above theirs. But our axes on the other side kind of messed up and ended up running a bit out of the fight and getting themselves completely killed and routed. Plus their commander came in and I think he used an ability or something. And what seemed to happen is the enemy trash just didn't die, and we started dying instead. I thought it might be the slingers attacking us, but looking in close, we are getting killed at the front mainly, so these low quality spears are just stabbing us up. I think these heavy axemen aren't as heavy as they're cracked up to be, plus now the enemy leader pushes to the front and starts killing everybody. So my last play there, I thought it was actually going to get somewhere, but ended up just completely backfiring and going way worse than I thought it was going to. And the fight eventually comes to an end because everything left just chain routes. But we did kill a bunch of stuff doing that stand. We didn't take out many full units, but we did deplete their units a lot. It's not going to be as good as it looks because they'll take a turn of replenishment right after this fight. But they're still weak enough when we come to attack them in the next turn that my full stack has a decent balance bar advantage, and we can freely just kill them with the auto-resolve. So that'll be that. Their counterattack has failed and fallen to my counterattack. So now we need to counterattack. We need to actually defeat this faction and knock them out of the war, so that I can then go back to the project I mentioned earlier. We need to go back home to where we started and just kill our neighbours to complete our mission. So this is really going to be a diversion because we're going to the other end of the map, the very bottom edge, to fight these guys on Crete. But there is also another mission, I'm not sure if I've got it yet, but another mission comes up to capture all of Crete as well. So this turns out to be not such a waste of time. Here you can see I hesitate to actually sail there because I don't have the Prayer of Poseidon active. But then I thought, well, let's just sail through the attrition this time and see what happens. And the attrition isn't that bad, as it turns out. Even without any of the techs you can get to reduce the damage you get from attrition, it's basically nothing, so it seems like it's cheaper to just not do the prayer at all. It's also faster since it takes a turn to set up. And soon we arrive on Crete. They've already started putting together a new army here. I was rushing here specifically to avoid this happening. I could have had another turn of replenishment before I moved out. But I knew they were just going to spam some more trash, so we need to get in here and besiege their settlement before they keep recruiting. Handily, I noticed they only have 1 turn of supplies, so I thought, well, we might as well just kill them this way then. We can leave them under siege, and they'll die super fast. But those guys we were warring with earlier come back to haunt me. They suddenly declare war on me, and their army is already positioned to attack this settlement. They just sit outside it for now, but clearly they've got some intent there. So that's going to be an issue. Looks like I'm going to re-lose the place I need to hold to complete my mission, so we're going to end up going back there again soon. I did consider like throwing a garrison or something in there, or an extra general, but really there's no time. Probably it's just going to die. Instead, we're going to focus on getting our main force through the war on Crete as soon as possible, and then we'll turn it back around to go deal with that. Luckily, the enemy are literally half dead because of that overpowered siege attrition, so I can just easily auto-resolve them and kill everything off, and that's that. That's going to be this faction effectively dead because while they have another region, they won't have time to make an army before I get there. Did consider looting the place, mainly for the replenishment it gives you. We could be at full strength after all this, but we still have to take a turn of replenishment because we've occupied the town, so didn't really need to do that. And it improved public order to not do that, so since I'm planning to leave immediately afterwards, it'll just make it less likely to rebel and stuff. Now indeed they do take that island back up there from us. Inconvenient, but that was inevitable at this stage. We probably should have actually finished them off earlier. I think that mistake from earlier is coming back to haunt me really. Now in our turn we get this mission that I thought I already had, but here was me actually getting it. The mission to be the annex of Crete. It's only a regular mission, but later in the campaign this mission turns into an epic mission, so we actually do have to do this to complete the campaign, and it did mention in the introductory cutscene that Sarpedon considers Crete to be his right or something, so that's like one of our main focus in the campaign. Meaning we'll be back on Crete later for more action, but for now we're just going to kill these guys here, which we can do with an easy auto-resolve. and then after the turn of occupation we have to take here to destroy their faction, we'll leave and go back to business out in the islands. Obviously, this time the faction is really dead and we do actually see the confirmation message, so that's good news. Then I've got this other army that I made back home. It's not very good and I was just using it to control public order, but now I've got a priestess with a happiness boosting trait instead, controlling all of our stuff back there and stopping any rebellions, so we don't need any units in our home territory, and I can start bringing them over to help with the war. So I just sail in the general direction of those Minoan guys that we're at war with. But we'll see this proves to be a mistake as well. Now, as for Sarpedon, he just needs to gun it north. We're several turns away from being able to do anything here, unfortunately. But there's nothing we can do about that, just need to actually get going. We are going to rely on the rest of Crete to not declare war on us. And I am going to pop a Poseidon prayer this time because it looks like we're going to spend several turns moving through attrition to get back into the action, so maybe this is worth it. Plus money is becoming less and less of an issue as the campaign goes on, of course, since the prayer is just a set cost there. Here's the issue I encountered with my second army coming to reinforce that I alluded to. The enemy's main force intercepts them in an unusual way as well. They came down from the north towards me somehow, so they were very much out of position. We can't retreat because I was in the increased movement range stance. I could fight this one, but I weighed it up and decided not, because if we're not going to kill any full units, it's not worth it because of the replenishment system, so you might as well skip battles that you're not either going to win or you're going to nearly win. So that's that. We've lost our army, and yes, I was just confused by the fact that this enemy force appeared to come down from the north, from all of those islands up there. So they clearly went on a bit of a jaunt after taking the territory off us. I thought they might just go southeast again and attack us down there, but in fact no. At least the fact that their army's over there is now revealed to us, so now we want to gun it north even more and have Sarpedon make an attack while they're away. You can see I did expect an attack to the southeast because I actually made another small force to defend that town down there. They are promoted from 3rd Army to 2nd Army now, and I'm going to use them to move back towards Rhodes, thinking that from the enemy's current position they could land and start just auto-resolving our Rhodes settlements to death if they really wanted to. As it turns out, they actually sailed down towards my fleet instead. I was out of their movement range and I actually checked this time, worried that I would be in their movement range. But this is good news for us because it means if they're not willing to attack our settlements, we can just draw them away. Theoretically this should be impossible because as I move away here, I'll be in the enemy's fog of war, but I strongly suspect the AI doesn't have fog of war, it can just see everything. So we'll move to a place where they theoretically won't know we're here, but realistically they will. And I stop just on the edge of their movement range instead of going back to the settlement, which we could do now, to see if that will tempt them to trying to get a naval battle going with us. And while all of that distraction is going on, Sarpedon now arrives in their territory. So far, their little dalliance off to the east is going to suit us quite well, because now they're in big trouble. They can either take my bait or they can start coming back here, and even if they do come back immediately, they may not have time to stop me sailing to the relatively close Minoa and attacking their final region. We did lose a unit in that easy auto-resolve annoyingly, so I'm going to grab some more giants to make up for it. As it happens, their force does go for my bait to the south. It then disappears. I'm not quite sure why that is. Either it touched a bit of fog of war that was quite near me or something, or they disbanded the army and it's just gone. Not quite sure, but I strongly suspected it was around there somewhere, perhaps hidden in some sort of secret sea ambush technique. So I thought, well, I'll go back to the settlement, because now this army with the garrison will be able to defeat their force if they attack, and whatever else they're doing, we can just go after their faction as a whole now by going for their new capital at Minoa. As long as we attack on the first turn we arrive, they won't have time to get back and retake any of their territory. So cut to the next turn, here's me doing just that, and indeed there's pretty much nothing here, so it's just an easy auto resolve, and that's that. Or is it? I make the same mistake again. I didn't look for a faction destroyed message, and indeed their faction wasn't destroyed, but I thought it was. Again, I didn't even look. I was so confident that those were their two regions, we just don't need to worry about them anymore. I kind of thought their army would probably just disappear or something, which does happen in some other Total War games, but I'm mentioning all this as a foreshadowing to the later return of that faction, which we shall see in the next part, as well as my efforts to actually get back on track and start doing the mission objectives again, which is also going to be waylaid by all sorts of things. Well, we'll see next time. This video is sponsored by me, creator of the top-rated turn-based tactics game Godless Tactics. With a 98% positive review score, it's probably better than whatever you're watching me play right now. Search Godless Tactics on Steam and support the OfficiallyDevin channel by purchasing the game. I'm 98% sure it's worth it.